Okay, my first day out, which I didn't manage to film, was probably about 8 to 9 miles an hour when I first went out, was about waist deep. Obviously you've now got a large fin which you need to be aware of, so I realised that basically waist deep water was enough. I wanted to just try and uphaul because I haven't done it for many years. Went out, pulled the sail up. As soon as the sail was up, the board's actually very stable, not a problem at all. Hooked in, just sails like a normal windsurf board. It's actually quite stable because this mast underneath, it's like stabilizer, so you don't tip quite as much, and there's not so much of this. So I went out 4 or 5 times, backwards and forwards, uphauled, and then I was sort of told don't water start because you will kick the fin and you will damage yourself. But I fell in and I still had the sail in my hand, so instead of going for the uphaul, I thought, well, why not, I'll try. Back foot on, put the sail up high, bent my leg towards me, brought the board right the way to my thigh, and then I just rolled up, nowhere near the fin, didn't even touch it, and then for the rest of the day I just water started, and yeah, it was quite easy. But it is something to be aware of, that when you fall in, you've got this big foil underneath you, so try not to fall down, try and fall away. If you are going to go over, try and bend your legs, land on the board, let the rig go, just try not to get near it. It's actually a lot more stable than what I thought. Like I said, I'm 110 kilos, probably with 10 kilos of sail and boom. Once I was up, I would say that the board was floating. It wasn't under the water, there was definitely board on top of the water. As soon as the sail was in my hand, I was behind the mast track, and I was going. It was nice and stable. Carried on for about an hour. Coming back in on one of the runs, a little gust of wind, I thought I'd give it a couple of pumps. The board actually accelerated really quickly, and on like the second really big pump, I leant back and the board basically lifted, shot off into the air, went left, and I went right. So it was that sensitive that as I pumped, I put all my weight back, I obviously loaded the foil, and it threw me off. So that was the first thing. I then came in for a rest, went back out again, saw the damage to the board, went back out without a harness again, water starting, uphauling, just playing around, but got quite tired quite quickly, so thought sailing without a harness is really not going to work. So came back in, had a rest, and then the wind started to come up, so put my harness back on. I had a 6 metre sail, and there were people with 7.5s, 8 metres out, and they were just about planing. So I thought I'd give it a go. Went out, hooked in, pumped, and the board planed almost immediately. It just started to plane. It didn't foil, but it was moving along with the water, the releasing from behind the mast track, and it was foot steering, not particularly quick, but it was going. I reckon I was probably doing 12, 13 knots in about probably 10 to 11 knots of wind. Unfortunately, because of the direction of the wind, I was in amongst a load of boats, so I didn't really want to try foiling, because if I decided that I'd get up and then I zipped off left or zipped off right, I was going to crash into a boat. So I started to try and feel what was going on. The board was planing, but it was not the normal feeling of planing. The board was in very, very flat. There was no rail in the water, even though I was going upwind. It was incredibly stable, and you could feel that you were supported under your back foot. There was no sinking like on a board where a normal type of windsurf, if you're just planing and you put all your weight back, the nose would go up and then you would stall and you would come off the plane. This didn't seem to be happening. It seemed to just keep going nice and flat, nice and straight. Probably did about 300 meters like that. Turned round, couldn't get going, so blobbed back in. Tried another run, exactly the same thing. Pumped 3-4 times and was planing, like really easy, just went. Hooked in, felt fairly stable, fairly powerful, and again just had this really solid feel under my back foot. Didn't really again want to do too much because this was my first day out, but it just felt incredibly solid. The board was incredibly flat. and it was riding probably higher than it should have been for the speed that I was doing. So the foil was working, but obviously I wasn't foiling as such. Then came back in, and I thought I'll give it a little bit more of a go this time, and unfortunately the wind dropped, so that was that. So for my first day out was literally just to assemble it all, put it all together, get out on the water, see if I could uphaul, see if I could water start, see if I could get plane in and stuff, and it all happened. So for my first time out, absolutely great. What I'm going to do on my next one is I'm going to try and film what's happening with this. So I'll have a back mount, I'll put a bit of video on of what I mean in a minute, and hopefully I might be able to take you along with my journey as to trying to get this thing foiling. Like I said, nearly 50, bit unfit and normal, so hopefully you will be able to learn from my, I wouldn't say mistakes, but learn from my experience, and hopefully it will help you move along a bit quicker. But most importantly, this board, there's no information about the board out there at all, so this is really just so that you can see what it is and make a decision. So I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, let's pray for some wind, because I want to do this.